So most of you know that I'm outdoors a lot and do a lot of hiking and hunting and that sort of thing. And in the process of doing that, I've seen cougar a few times. I've seen them coming off from dead carcasses where the highway department gathers roadkill over at exit 80. I've seen their tracks numerous times. We're in the Pianoway area. In fact, one time I even walked under a tree while I was out mushrooming and had a cougar just kind of give out a loud yell about 10 feet over my head. Just scared the heck out of me. But normally I found that they're pretty wary and try to stay away from human beings. That seems to be their tendency. So I kind of, relaxed with that understanding that, they're not going to bother me, and, just kind of proceeded to do my thing, with that in mind. In fact, one of the things I really enjoy doing during the winter time is I'll go out, grab my snowshoes, and I love tracking animals in the snow. I read this book by John Brown once, John Brown Jr. I think it was, on tracking, and he was really analyzed. He could tell just how old the track was, whether the animal was injured or not, even the kind of activity that he was on, whether it was hunting or just fooling around, just by studying the tracks and just, learn animal behavior from doing that. And it motivated me, in my outings to try to get some of that skill, just kind of, okay, what's the animal doing now? And just kind of learn from the experience of studying a track. So, and there's one time, I had been to this area north of Cle Elum, and I frequented on snowshoes several times, and I left the car and, kind of noticed, no footprints for a while, no animal prints near where I was taking off. So I went out in the woods, and I'm seeing where the cougar come down to chase the elk around. When the elk come down, when the snow drives the elk down from the high country, the cougar kind of follow along. And so I take advantage of that and kind of study them. And I've seen where one set of tracks I was following. A cougar chased a squirrel around a tree, and I could see the fur where, hey, the cougar was successful this time. And so I'm kind of following this set of tracks, to see what the cougar was doing out in the woods. And, the first day that I did it, I came back towards the car, and I must have just scared the cougar off from a recent kill, because it had dug a deer carcass out of the snowbank. Probably somebody hit it with a car or something like that, and was feeding on it. And the tracks were not there when I took off from the car, so they were pretty fresh. But again, the cougar took off, and no problem. So the next week, I went out in that same area, and I was kind of following a set of tracks, and to see what the cougar might do. And I walked for probably a mile or so on the snowshoes, and it just makes the snowshoeing a lot more interesting if you're kind of following the tracks along and kind of seeing what's going on. And in the process, I made this great big circle, and that's what the tracks were doing. And all of a sudden, I noticed that the cougar tracks that I were following, all of a sudden the tracks were behind me, and the cougar was showing some interest in my tracks. And, it had circled around, and it was now following me. So I kind of, that made me a little bit uneasy. So I decided, well, maybe I just for safety's sake, I'm going to head back to the car. And I, kind of hot-footed it, on my snowshoes back to the car. And sure enough, just as I'm, getting pretty close to the car, I glanced around, and I could see that cougar, not, maybe 100 yards back of me. He was heading my way. So I hopped in the car, and I decided I'm going to take up a new hobby. I'm not out there tracking cougar in the snow anymore. That was just a little bit too much. We hope that you enjoyed this week's telling of Campfire Tales. Please remember to hit subscribe to make sure that you get the announcements for next week's upcoming activities, as well as the new topics for the Campfire Tales. Please also share the fun that we have here and let your friends know about our website. Check out RogersOutdoorChannel.org for more information and to stay connected. If you like the outdoors, great to enjoy this site.